Always like when all the technology works at once. Welcome, Steve Silverman.
Thank
And
you.
you've had a busy media morning, thank goodness. But more importantly, you've had a busy last few days raising a lot of money really quickly. We're going to start right off the bat because I'm going to say that you, three childhood friends, were sitting around one day. I'm going to imagine you're just drinking a scotch, vodka, beer, watching the world happen around you. You guys are
Yep.
all very successful guys, and you're sitting around and you're thinking the world is in mayhem with the coronavirus is
Yep.
really what was going on. So I want everyone who's really watching today, and then as I always like to say, we repost. So tell everyone really, let's start from the beginning, because the beginning really wasn't about social justice.
Right. No, it wasn't by any means. So, yeah, it was in March. Basically, myself and my co-founders, Matt Greenberg and Josh Sklar, were really trying to come up with ways to creatively donate towards everything going on in COVID, right? So, for me, it was really the day after the iHeartRadio music concert that was run, where I went online and I was like, I really want to get involved. I want to donate, and I didn't know where to donate to, right? For me, it was Googling around, and it was not satisfying. I could have went to a GoFundMe page and just had my name posted there. And so, Josh and Matt and I all, really virtually sat down and had a conversation on it. Josh is the director of engineering for StockX, which is obviously, tied to the Quicken Loans family of companies. And Matt is a very well connected and really expert when it comes to web development in Chicago. And so, I brought really what I would say my entrepreneurial slash operations side to the idea, and then kind of handed over to them to build something out that we thought would be very easy, technology driven way to raise money. And so we had this idea of basically making a modern GoFundMe page where, in addition to having your name or remaining anonymous on a specific board, you could post a photo of yourself. At that time, it was potentially posting a photo of your doctor or your family or a first responder, and then being able to support local causes. So we had at that time 10 organizations, some that are still live with us on the social justice challenge that we were going to be supporting. And then obviously nothing happens overnight, right? It takes time to build out a website. It takes time to, from start to finish, to get a 501c3 independent status. And so by time all of that was done and we were ready to launch, call that plus minus 60 days, at the forefront with everything going on was, social justice, police brutality, racism, et cetera. And so, we sat down and said, why don't we pivot for the time being? We know COVID's going to be here in the fall. Obviously it's still here in the summer. Why don't we, take our platform and really change it towards, raising money for social justice? And so in a matter of days, we rebranded the website. We, started working with partners and in terms of who we were going to be supporting. We started reaching out to corporations to match donations. And, I think it was last Monday is really when we started to push this. It was all organic in the beginning in terms of, pushing it out to our network, friends and family. And then since then, we've run a couple of some very successful campaigns in terms of, matching donations. Today, we have a very promising campaign running right now. And I think that's going to continue, into next week and the following weeks. And we have no plans to slow down here.
Why do you think, what struck you differently about, when you guys were thinking about this? It would have been easy to say, let's do GoFundMe, but you really created a very different type of model. It's far more integrated. It's far more community-based.
Yeah.
You go on, and I definitely encourage everybody, you want to go to socialjusticechallenge.com. I might sound like a telethon here because I might say it over and over, and I want to say it over and over today because today's we're live. It's a really important day. It's going to be an important time during this challenge. In particular, today, the donations are being matched. And, it's 11:07 right now. And, already donations have been far exceeded, I think, our expectations in the
Yeah.
morning, from the morning. But you guys could have set up a GoFundMe, all these different crowdsourcing. I mean, they've been around for a while. You guys really wanted a different look. I mean, that was probably for good, bad, or indifferent. It might have slowed you down even,
For sure. No, 100%. I mean, not to cut you off, but yeah, I mean, day one, we could have started our own GoFundMe page and basically called it at that time, like the COVID Detroit support page. We could have done the same thing for, Detroit social justice. For us, it's easy to put a page up. It's a lot different to, build something from the ground up. And I think for us, if you go to our website right now, you'll see our mission statement. You won't see any of our photos. This is not about, the three of us wanting to have, notoriety from it. It's not even on our LinkedIn or Facebook pages that we're tied to it. I think, we really wanted to build something in some ways to really, I don't want to say compete with GoFundMe. I mean, GoFundMe is a for-profit business. For us, fortunately, we're all successful in what we do in our full-time jobs. This is something that we really wanted to build, to give back to the community. And so for us, it was, let's do something where we can, build something right now. We can use it for COVID. We can use it for social justice. Social justice reform is not going to change overnight, right? We hope that, for instance, June 10th becomes a national holiday going forward. We hope the organizations that we're supporting are able to really, generate the change that everyone's hoping comes out of this. And awareness is super important. But for us, it is, let's be the platform for breast cancer awareness in the future or autism awareness, whatever it may be. Our platform can change on the fly in terms of changing the colors and design very quickly. And I think that's really what we wanted to build. In a perfect world, if we can hand this off to someone to really run on an operation standpoint on a day-to-day basis and build a board around that, that's ultimately, what I think a success story would look like.
What's interesting is, and we're seeing this now, we have gone from this pandemic to protests to riots, and we've all had to shift gears. I started this Facebook Live, to really talk to small businesses. And the whole thrust of it has been, what happened in March to you? What happened to your businesses?
Yep.
And, how did you, from a technology standpoint, deal with things? How are you coming out of it? One of the things when I started talking with you, it was, with your co-founders, you really looked at, how are we going to take this very philanthropic community we live in? And truthfully, at the time, you were talking not just about Detroit. It was a very broader scope.
Sure.
And we said, no, let's focus on Detroit first. Let's build it here. And then, reach out and it will go farther.
Yep.
But you were able to shift very quickly to really what the world then shifted to.
Yep.
Let's talk really in now time, because this week alone, you have taken your skills. I like to say the skill of roping people in.
Sure.
And I love it because when you rope people in, it means you've touched a heartstring. And you have touched a heartstring to what you do best from your day job, a successful day job. And you have said, look, we need to make changes. Maybe we weren't watching what we did corporately. Maybe we weren't listening. And you've reached out to companies, and maybe they were, maybe they weren't. But now you've really integrated some of these companies. Some of them I love. They want to remain anonymous, and that's great. but talk about what these companies are doing. And the reason that I say that is I'm looking down at who's watching right now. And the reason is because we want other companies to
Yep.
take part in this challenge.
Yeah. So great question. So I think is in any business, any nonprofit, right? It's always about being able to fundraise. It's always about being able to grow your platform outside of running it for a week and then losing traction, right? So for us, it was, as you've alluded to, having the corporate, and it's not really a corporate sponsor or corporate partner. It's, hey, company A, B, C, whatever you may be. Let's use Ford Motor Company, for example, huge organization, right? To go to a company of that size and say, you have two options. You can have all of your employees send you a receipt that says we donated and then you'll match them, or you can run a socialjusticechallenge.com/Ford/GM, campaign or event by yourself, and it's internal. You can do one of two things. You can keep that internal. No one outside of the company has to know about it. Or you can do, for instance, what we're running today with Telemus Capital out of Southfield. They want to be out in the open. They are very front facing. They've got clients from all walks of life. And, I think for them, it's not just getting their name out there, but it's saying, hey, we're local to the community in Southfield. We want to have our client base donate to us. But, as Matt ran, their COO reached out to me and said, share it with your network. We don't care where the money comes from. If we don't know anyone who's donating via our site, but the money comes in that way, that's how we want to run it. So I think for us, it's, going forward, it's very easy now once you have a few companies to point back to and say, hey, X, Y, and Z ran with us. Here's what we were able to do. Getting money from other organizations, getting, companies on board where they'll really believe in the idea, I think is going to be the easy part now. For me, in my day job being in the commercial real estate business, it's really selling all day long. This has been very, what I'll call, uplifting and fun for me. I'm always selling. So to take call it revenue generating job to then switch it into, splitting my day to really generating money for a better cause outside of, myself and my family, I think is obviously very meaningful, but to me, it comes very natural. And so I think that's why, my co-founders are busy working on the tech side. And I've said, guys, let me work on raising money all day. And so I think, from a team perspective, it's working really well. And I think, we're going to find that raising money from local organizations, and then once we go national, is going to be, relatively easy as well.
And one of the great parts of that is you also come from a company that's incredibly supportive. Friedman Real Estate is also, such a great community partner,
Sure.
and wanting to give back. And so they see the value in this as well. Let's talk about, so people have an understanding, who the organizations are that are benefiting, because these are organizations currently benefiting, but like both sides, there's rooms for many businesses to get on board, challenge their own employees to give,
Yep.
whether it be individually, whether the companies then want to match, but there's room for organizations to benefit. And I will say that one of the greatest challenges you had, because I watched it, you were reaching out to organizations who were at the time downtown in the midst of, positive protesting.
Yep.
And you're trying to get them on the phone to say, hey, we want to, raise money for you.
Yeah, it was strangely frustrating, right? You would think
Right.
if you would call an organization, they'd say, like, please give us your money. That's usually how it goes, but no one was reachable, as you're alluding to. So
Right.
It really came down to sending, 5 to 10 emails in a 24-hour period, sending, text messages to the co-founders, sending, Instagram direct messages to people who were using the same hashtag. So thankfully, we were able to get through. It was frustrating and a little, worrisome in the beginning. But, now I'm happy to share, who we're working with and I think what that's going to look like to grow. So right now, the organizations that we are supporting is the Detroit Justice Center. We are also supporting the Bail Project, which is actually tied to the Justice Center as well from a Detroit perspective. Black Lives Matter Detroit signed on late last week. They were the perfect example of a group very hard to get a hold of for very good reasons. But their co-founder from the Detroit chapter has been amazing and has really been involved and wants to get more involved with what we're doing. Say Detroit, which is Mitch Albom's organization, they've been involved since the COVID charity days. So, I called them and I said, hey, you guys are doing a lot of great stuff for social justice in Detroit. It's not just COVID. It's not just working with kids programs. It's really being down there. And so their director of development said, we want to be on your site. We want to move with you. Let's do it. And then similarly, Empowerment Plan, which is an awesome organization that makes innovative jackets or like winter coats for homeless people that then transforms into a sleeping bag. For us, that is all day long social reform, and they're employing people who are homeless to make coats as well. And then in addition to that, our what I'll call our chief legal correspondent and semi co-founder, who's been amazing from the get-go, Jonathan Schwartz, who's a partner at Jaffe, is also one of the lead board members at Humble Design, which does awesome work with both donating homes and furnishing homes for the underprivileged and veterans and homeless people as well. We're supporting them, and they are super strong. And I'm looking at numbers that are coming in, and you'd be surprised how much money is going to Humble Design. That isn't 100%. It's not 100%, but it's not, when you think of social justice reform, it's not the first thing that comes to your mind. But I think people resonate when they go to their website and click on it. And then finally, a good friend of mine who's a public defender in Detroit, Jackie Pilkowitz, who works for the National Defender Service, that's based out of Brooklyn, I believe, has a Detroit office that opened last year. She saw me posting on Instagram. She reached out to me and said, hey, we want to join. Can you add us? And I said, absolutely. Like, don't even think twice. So they're on there as well. And now we're working with a couple of other organizations that want to join too. So for us, I don't have a problem. Our co-founders don't have a problem. We would love to have 25 organizations that you can select. More the merrier. Once we go, to more cities or states, there'll be another checkout screen that will first prompt you to say which city you're located in or which city you want to support. And then we'll individually donate to, all of those causes. And then even more important, which I think is, I've been getting some feedback on Instagram. It was really, hey, we love what you're doing, but we really just want to donate directly to the cause. And I've said to them, we're fine with that, right? We're not in business to make money. We're really in business to support and provide awareness to these organizations. And so if you go to our partners organization page and you click on the individual links to the organizations that we're supporting, it'll take you directly to their donation site. So we're open to it and we're happy about it.
Yeah, you and I kind of worked through that and talked about that. And we get that a lot in PR when organizations partner with other organizations. I get that a lot. How do you answer to, why not just go to the direct link? And I'm going to let you answer because you and I talked about that. Yeah. When someone says to you, why should I go to your site?
Well, in this specific instance, right, I think for us, and I think this is really the differentiator too between GoFundMe and, for instance, if I wanted to donate directly to Black Lives Matter Detroit, in the instance that we're talking about for our platform, it's really the expressive nature that you get out of it, right? So if you go and you donate directly to Black Lives Matter Detroit, your donation is going to go there. You're going to get a tax deductible receipt. You're going to feel good about doing it, which is great. But the one component you're not going to get is posting on our site, you out there protesting, or a picture of your family, or a picture of George Floyd, and then being able to share that with your network. That's really what we're all about. As I've said before, this is really to be collective. It's really supposed to be, a community type of endeavor and engagement. So, we hope people will use our site. But honestly, if we saw that $10,000 went towards, the Detroit Justice Center, and they called us and they said, hey, they found out about it because, they clicked on your website and they didn't post a photo, I'd say amazing. Like, we'd feel really good about it and we're happy with it.
And early on, and I'm an open book. You guys came to me and said, can you help me get the word out? And I was like, I'm in. And this was during the COVID part. But I love the fact that I think maybe our first conversation or second conversation, I loved calling you at like 10:30 at night. And I'm like, I don't get it.
Right.
Do you
that
remember?
was the biggest. No, like 100%. You were.
It,
It was funny, as we always said. If someone a little bit older than us, not mentioning any ages, right? But as
that was
I've always said,
me.
if my parent aged cohort or demographic doesn't understand how to use the site, we can't go live. And so
Right. So
that.
I mean,
But
and that, so, and so I'm putting that out there to everyone because the truth of the matter is that, I love to play, that devil's advocate
for sure.
because that's how great this site is now. And how much I love it because you guys, we really worked through things, but we thought about things. And, I stepped back and you guys did your magic. I mean, you guys are brilliant in this.
Right, not me. I got it. It all comes down to Matt developing it, and Josh really looking at it from from an overhead
Well,
project manager.
but the three of you together, but
Yeah,
I remember thinking, here's the thing. We got trained in clicking and make a donation, make a
right.
tribute.
Yeah,
Then we got trained in going to GoFundMe. And again, there's plenty of people who won't do any of that. So when I first looked at the site, I'm looking at these boxes and I'm thinking like, okay, I don't get it,
yeah,
and I hated that. I don't get it.
yeah.
And
We
but
hated the feedback as well, but it was a good challenge for us because it was okay. We need to continue to iterate. For instance, in the beginning, we were calling the squares tiles, and everyone kept
right,
saying to us, what's a tile, right?" And I didn't
right,
have a good answer for what a tile was. It wasn't a square, and so and I think the biggest iteration for us on the social justice challenge side was, if you remember, on the COVID site, all the squares were different sizes, right? And so some were
yes,
$100, some were $10. And so we decided, let's take all of the numbers off, make them all the same size. And if someone wants to donate $1,000 for the same size square, great. But we also want to make it accessible to everyone. And so the minimum donation was $10. And so, we wanted to be start to finish. If you can't get off the site and know what you're doing in like 3 minutes, hopefully
right.
you'll email us or contact me. But we do hope that 90+% of the population who uses the site can be, in and off the site and sharing it pretty quickly.
Well, and that's what I really wanted to get to because one of the things early on and to this day that I love is, I have a 23-year-old, and if he's got $20 or $25, which he's
Yep.
certainly going to spend at a bar,
Right.
he can go and feel good about that donation.
For sure.
And yet somebody my age can go on and give more and
Yep.
know how to do it and share, but share a photo. And it is this whole community feeling. What's even, when we talk about why give here versus directly, what's fabulous is also the matching donation that
That's the
really,
biggest part. Right.
yeah.
Which
And
which
that's
is funny because I continue to not tell people that's the biggest part, but it is the biggest part. If my $10 becomes $20 or my 100
right.
becomes 200, that is the biggest selling point in and of itself.
Stephen, you have to tell
I
people
know
that.
that for a guy who's always selling, that's so important. I'm never
That
used to someone doubling whatever my output is. So I
right.
guess that's
that
what it
that
is.
really is the biggest part because the truth of the matter is if I give 50, it's 100.
Right.
And that 100 is going to make a huge amount of difference to these organizations.
For sure.
Um,
And
so
to your point, it's in many cases that doubling is to either an organization that you work for, and so you have that sense of comfort, you
mhm,
have that sense of we're all in this together, or it could be an organization or a company that you have not an affinity for, but someone that or a company that you have a connection to. It may be
right.
your cousin's or uncle's company, right? And I think that's the same way on the virtual board that we have. And I think you and I spoke about it. One of your kids were looking at the site and they said, oh, I know that person who's
Mhm.
posting. I think that also gets people to give when you have that sense of comfort. And it's, oh, if John Smith, who I know, posted on this, it must
Mhm.
be reliable, and I'm going to go and do the same, and then I'm going to share it.
And I think that what's been great is the sharing aspect, and really that whole community feeling that I share. I know it's the site is safe. I do want to talk about the future a little bit. We haven't talked about this offline, so
Sure. No, I'm ready for it. Let's
here we
talk.
go.
Yeah, no, I'm ready
Um,
for it.
I know that, I'll say that the big goal right now is we've got a bunch of companies. Like I said, I hope people watching who are in the position, who might be CEOs, who can say, hey, next week, I want to talk to you, Steve, and say, I want to get my company involved. You know,
Yeah.
like
Don't
if I'm,
don't wait until next week. It's only
yeah,
11:30 in the morning on a Friday, so I'm around today and
yeah,
all weekend.
that's
But
true.
to your point, and I want to be sure we touch on this, is for us, we can, if someone came to us and said we need 1,000 individual pages, right? Slash A, slash B, slash company ABC, whatever it may be, we can make that live in a day. Like it's that easy for us
Is
with
that
your
quick?
branding, your logo. And to that point, if a smaller organization, say it's an accounting firm with 5 people, but they have a client base of 50, if they said, hey, we're only comfortable matching $500 or $1,000, that's no different for us to run versus someone called a large Fortune 500 company that wants to raise $100,000. For us, from a tech perspective, it's no different. So I don't want to discourage anyone who's on the small business side all the way up to, a behemoth of an organization. It's no different for us.
Yeah, I think that's really important because really, my focus a lot of times is small business, and
Yep.
you can be a small business and put it out to your customers, to participate. I mean, there's lots of, this is endless
Yeah,
how
no,
how
for
this
sure.
can be how
Yeah.
this can be
Like
done.
to your point, yesterday, Josh and I were talking. He had an awesome idea. He's like, what we should do going forward is, I'm just going to keep going back to the automotive because we're in Detroit and we use this example. But imagine if we took our virtual board and then we, instead of it just being, a 12 by 12, we made the board the GM logo. And then
Mhm.
each square was basically building, to fill up the GM logo. And at the end, you had a colorful GM logo, all different people's faces and logos, et cetera. I'm like, that's an awesome idea. So I think as we continue,
He's so
uh,
he's so smart. Thank
he's
God.
so smart and creative. It's amazing. So,
It's good
as
that
we
he's at
continue to,
StockX.
they're doing something right. And so as we continue to iterate, they're working behind the scenes with ideas, and I think it's great. And I'm just going to keep doing what I have to do to get more organizations on board that we can support and more matching donors.
So my next question that we haven't talked about is, this is becoming a very well-oiled machine, as I like
Yep.
to say. COVID is out there. Thank God Michigan, well, depends what you read and what you believe,
Yeah.
I always have to say. But, COVID is there. Who knows about the fall?
Yep.
What are your plans? I guess, what are your plans for the COVID challenge? What are your plans for other challenges?
Yeah.
And what are your plans for other cities?
So, all great questions. For us right now, again, the same way we can run 1,000 social justice boards at once. We could, at the same time have one screen up running social justice and the other screen up running a COVID charity challenge. You know,
Mhm.
our bread and butter, our baby originally in this was the COVID charity challenge. I think we owe it to the organizations, such as the Pace Southeast Michigan, Children's Foundation, that were all ready for us to go live.
Mhm.
That I do owe messages to give them an update of where we're at with everything. But basically, I think, as I'm saying, I think we owe it to them to support them. They signed on board, they believed in us, and so I think from my perspective, what I'm currently doing is working with a couple people who are going to help me, raise money from organizations, bring more organizations on, so that I can then start working again on the COVID side, in tandem with working on the social justice side. But I'm ready to launch it again. I would say in a couple of weeks. That we kind of want to monitor and let the social justice aspect of the site grow.
Mhm.
I have a feeling, I'm not a doctor, that COVID's for sure going to be around in the fall. And I don't hope it's not as bad as the first wave, and it's a lot less, but I know, it's going to gain attention again. It has to. So there's
Right.
going to be a need for that. And really for us, I think what'll probably happen is social justice challenge. My personal goal, it's arbitrary, but is really to hit $100,000 in Detroit, and then to start moving on to more cities, call it
Mhm.
the Chicagos, the DCs, the LAs, the Miamis of the world. where a lot of people are out protesting, and then really come back to dialing in on the COVID Charity Challenge in Detroit, and then grow that from a grassroots organization as well. And then let that, ramp up and then go to more cities, because it's a lot easier, as you know. Our whole team is Detroit based, right? Outside of Megan, who's our creative director, who's based in LA. It's going to be awesome when we move, when we do launch this in LA. It's a much easier story, to leverage our network and to call people and say, hey, we're here, versus calling Chicago, where, some of us had lived in the past. Matt's still there. It's just not the same. So for us, it's, let's start with Detroit. There's great brand equity here, and then we'll grow that way.
I think it's great. I really want people to head over to socialjusticechallenge.com, check out the site, donate what you can, which is what I always say. The great news, it's, your donation is being matched. Encourage your friends to do the same. It really is one of those things. $10 is 20, 20 is 40, but these organizations need our help. We all can't protest. Some of us don't feel comfortable protesting, but what we can do, and I think it's really important, is to note that in order for these protesters to be protesting, it costs money.
A lot of money.
It costs a lot of dollars, but that's not the only thing. To make changes, it costs dollars. And for those of us who can be in the position to help make those changes, that's where that's why you guys were sitting around and thinking, like, I can't sit around and watch, another telethon on TV. I can't watch another news story of a protest. I think I will say, in all honesty, we all get guilty of watching the news and watching what's happening.
Right. And not doing anything. Right. 100%.
Yeah. And we're like, oh, look at this. Look what's happening.
It's almost, I don't want to call it entertainment, but it's like watching a movie. You sit down, you watch a 2-hour movie, and then you turn it off, and it's out of sight, out of mind. I think for our perspective, it's because of the community feel, it's having friends and family sharing it, not just us. If you look at Instagram posts today, you're seeing a lot of that happening. I will plug, just for today, because it's important, that, as I said before, Telemus Capital in Southfield is matching up to a $5,000. I haven't checked, but I know we were at 3,000 a little while ago. So if you go to the socialjusticechallenge.com/Telemus, they're open to anyone going there today, $10 minimum donation. And we're excited to see how much we can raise.
Yeah, we really can't thank that company enough. Others are coming on board. There's some that are doing it internally that you won't hear about because they're just doing it internally within their own organizations. What I'd like to say is, do that. You want to just have that challenge within your own company, go for it. And, Steve Silverman, Josh Sklar, Matt Greenberg, I'm saying their names. You're sort of being the mouthpiece out, but they are, they're amazing.
They're the brain, as I sometimes am difficult to them, because, one thing isn't working on the page, and, it's a lot easier to be the operations guy yelling at them. But really, honestly, as I said to them this morning when I was on TV this morning, I sent them a message after, and I said, if it weren't for you guys, I would just be on the TV talking about an idea. You guys actually built something from scratch. So,
well, the three of you have been lifelong friends and have really, really come together, made a difference. A lot of people talk about making a difference. They talk about ideas, and that's easy to do. It's another thing to say, you know what, I've got my day job, but during my downtime, we won't tell your bosses that during your day jobs that you've probably been working on this.
Exactly.
But I can't thank you enough. Everybody head over to socialjusticechallenge.com. Keep raising the money, because that is what is really going to make the changes, or begin to make the changes that we need. There's lots of things that we need to make the changes. This is just one of many. We need a lot of good leadership, and but we need, to raise the funds for these organizations. Steve, you're amazing. Your team is amazing. And we look forward to all the different platforms that are going to follow along suit with us.
We're excited about it. I appreciate you having me today.
All right. Take care. Have a great day.
Yeah, I'll talk to you later.